Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to force your mind into silence, the louder it seems to scream? We live in an era of relentless mental exertion, a time where we are convinced that if we evaluate our problems deeply enough, plan for every conceivable future disaster, and hold our psychologists merciless tight, we might finally achieve a sense of safety. We treat our inner peace as a fortress to be built through effort, rather than a state to be discovered. But this approach creates a suffocating paradox. The desperate calling for security is the very generator of our insecurity. Now, let us explore the profound wisdom for not in adding more, but in letting go. To understand the art of floating, we must first deeply understand the nature of sinking. Sinking, in the psychological sense, is not a passive event. It is an active doing. It is the result of a frantic, often unconscious, resistance to the medium in which we find ourselves. Consider the physical act of drowning. A person does not drown because they are heavy, they drown because they panic. In that terror, they thrash against the water, they gasp for air where there is none, and that tends every muscle in a bid to dominate the elements surrounding them. They treat the water as an enemy to be fought rather than a force that can sustain them. This physical reality is a perfect mirror for our mental state. The modern mind is perpetually treating water. We are born into a universe that is fluid, ever-changing, and fundamentally impermanent. This is the river of life, the Tao, to flux, to great unfolding. Yet we are culturally conditioned to seek solid ground. We are taught to be a responsible, successful, and secure individual. We must establish permanence. We want our relationships to be locked in stone, our bank accounts to be predictable, and our self-image to be unshakable. We try to freeze the river. And when the river inevitably moves, when a relationship shifts, when the economy trembles, when we experience this movement as a threat. This is the birth of anxiety. Anxiety is simply the fiction between the fluid nature of reality and the rigid expectations of the ego. We believe that if we worry, we are doing something useful. We believe that worry is a form of control. We tell ourselves, if would worry about this presentation, would will be better prepared, or if would replay this awkward conversation from 10 years ago, would will learn not to do it again. But notice the texture of this thinking. It is tight. It is constricted. It is a clenched fist. We are caught in a trap of recursive effort. We feel insecure, so we try to think our way out of insecurity. But the thinking is the insecurity. It is like trying to smooth out rough water with a flat iron. The more you smack the water to flatten it, the more turbulence you create. The more that is trying to fix the anxiety is actually the same mechanism that is producing it. We are split into the one who is afraid and the one who says what must stop being afraid. This internal civil war exhausts us. It drains the vitality from our days and leaves us staring at the ceiling at Baza Kung Fu aim, wondering why we cannot just switch off. The tragedy of the ordinary world, our common state of being, is that we have confused tension with safety. We hold ourselves together, quite literally. If you check in with your body right now, you might notice a subtle bracing. Perhaps in the jaw, the shoulders, or the belly. This is the somatic reflection of the swimmer fighting the current. We are holding on for dear life, but we are holding on to nothing, because there is nothing stationary to grab. This creates a pervasive background hum of use. Even when things are going well, we are waiting for the other shoe to drop. We cannot enjoy the sunlight because we are already anticipating the rain. This is the exhaustion of swimming upstream. We look at the flow of time which carries us inevitably toward change and eventually toward death, and we too are on and swim against it with all our might. We either swim back to yesterday or swim frantically toward a hypothetical tomorrow where we imagine we will finally be safe. But the current is stronger than us. Our ways. The universe has more energy than our individual ego. By fighting it, we deplete our own reserves, leading to burnout, depression, and a sense of utter futility. We must also look at how this manifests in our search for identity. In this modern storm, we are obsessed with defining who we are. We build elaborate constructions of self or charis. Our beliefs, our social media personas hopping these rafts will keep us dry. But these rafts are fragile. A single criticism, a single failure, and the water starts seeping in. Then comes the frantic bailing. We defend our egos, we argue, we rationalize, we ruminate. We spend immense energy patching up a self-image that is destined to dissolve anyway. We are terrified of being nobody, so we work ourselves to death trying to be somebody. This struggle is rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of why. We believe that the burden of existence rests entirely on our shoulders. We feel that if we stop paying attention, if we stop worrying, the world will collapse. We play the role of the general manager of the universe, assuming responsibility for variables that are wildly outside our jurisdiction. We try to control the opinions of others, the outcome of global events, the health of our bodies, and the vagaries of luck. Is it any wonder we are tired? Is it any wonder that the predominant mood of our time is a low-grade, vibrating panic? The irony and the tragedy is that this effort blocks the very thing we crave. We want peace, but peace is a form of silence, and we are making noise. We want connection, but connection requires openness, and we are armored. We want to float, but we are too busy trashing. We are like a bird that is afraid of the air, flapping its wings so frantically that it forgets it can glide. We have been sold a lie that says effort equals results. In the mechanical world, this is true. If you want to move a bricks, you must exert force. But in the psychological world, the laws of physics are often reversed. This is the backwards law. The more you pursue security, the more insecure you feel. The more you try to grab happiness, the more it slips through your fingers like sand. The more you cheat to force slip, the more awake you become. We are standing on the edge of a river, terrified of the water, convinced that the only way to survive is to build a dam with our bare hands. But the water is rising. The pressure is building. And our strength is failing. We are approaching a breaking point, a moment where the strategy of fighting the current reveals itself not as a survival mechanism, but as a form of self-sabotage. We are realizing that no amount of swimming upstream will ever bring us to the source. The struggle itself is the trap. But what happens if we stop? The mind recoils at this question. If I stop fighting, it says, what will be swept away? What will drown? Chaos will consume me. This is the great fear. This is the threshold we are afraid to cross. We cling to our anxiety because, in a twisted way, it feels like a lifeline. We prefer the familiar pain of the struggle to the terrifying unknown of the surrender. Yet deep down, beneath the noise of the worry and the armor of the ego, there is a whisper. A suspicion that perhaps we have been only wrong all along. A faint memory of a time perhaps in childhood, perhaps in a moment of deep shock or sudden beauty where we stopped trying and everything was okay. The world continued to spin without our help. The breath continued to flow without our command. We are exhausted, not because life is too heavy, but because we are carrying it awkwardly. We are trying to carry the river instead of letting the river carry us. The ordinary world of anxiety is a world of gravity without buoyancy. But the physics of the mind are out to shift. We are about to discover that the weather we have been fighting is not an enemy, but a support system that has been waiting for us to stop trashing long enough to feel it. Here lies the great terrifying threshold. To stop swimming is to trust something of earth-hand around effort. And for the modern mind, train it in the rigorous academy of survival and competition, this feels like suicide. We are convinced that the only thing keeping us from total annihilation is our vigilance. We believe that if we do not hold the sewing of the gap at our hands, the sky will fall. So when we speak of floating, we are not merely suggesting a relaxation technique. We are proposing a radical cosmological shift. We are challenging the fundamental assumption that you are a separate entity in a hostile universe. To understand buoyancy, we must look at why we struggle to tit. The root of our frantic trading is a sensation of alienation. We feel that we came into this world like a stranger walking into a room, rather than coming out of it, like a wave emerging from the ocean. Because we feel separate, an isolated ego inside a bag of skin, we view the environment as other. And R is unpredictable. Other is dangerous. Therefore, we must conquer it, manipulate it, or at the very least, keep our guard up against it. This is the great illusion that generates our exhaustion. We behave as if we are the pilots of a complex machine, pulling levers and checking cells, waiting to keep the heart beating, the breath flowing, and the neurons firing. But is that true? Did you consciously decide to grow your hair this morning? Are you currently managing the intricate chemistry of your digestion? No. It is happening of itself. The great intelligence of nature is doing it. You are not doing life, life is doing you. This is the first credit of floating, realizing that what Ted is so worried about survival is actually the least necessary part of the operation. The anxiety comes from a tiny, contracted fragment of your mind trying to manage the infinite complexity of the whole. It is like a single ripple trying to dice of the Atlantic. So, let us conduct a philosophical experiment. Imagine yourself back in the weather. To float, you must do the one thing that feels most unnatural. You must lean back. You move at the expose your vital organs, your chest, your throat to the sky. You must allow your ears to submerge, dampening the sounds of the outside world, retreating internal silence. There is a moment of panic in this transition. This is the trial. As you lean back, your center of gravity shifts. You feel a momentary sensation of falling. The instinctive flow is overwhelming. The mind screams, right yourself. Wrap something. Saw something. This is the crucial juncture. If you panic and tense your muscles, your density increases and you begin to sink. You prove your fear right. But if you enter the split second of vertigo, if you exhale and soften the belly, a miracle of physics occurs. The water rises to meet you. The very element that threatened to swallow you suddenly becomes a cradle. You realize that the waiter was never trying to drown you. It was simply waiting for you to displace enough of it to be supported. Archimedes' principle applies to the soul as much as the body. To be supported, you must surrender your weight. You must cease holding yourself up. This applies directly to our psychological storms. The water is the flow of events, emotions, thoughts, and circumstance. We are afraid that if we stop worrying, things will go wrong. But look at your past. How many of your problems were actually solved by anxiety? How many times did your frantic overthinking actually change the outcome? Or did the solutions often arrive when you finally gave up, when you were in the shore, or taking a walk when you stepped away and let the subconscious intelligence take over? Floating is the act of trusting the buoyancy of the unknown. We are terrified of the unknown because we project our fears into it. We fill the dark space of the future with monsters. But the unknown is also the source of everything new, everything creative, and everything beautiful. By fighting the current, we are refusing to let the new enter our lives. We are clinging to the known, even if the known is painful. The mentor, whether it be the Taoist sage or the whisper of your own intuition, tells you that the universe is not a rigid structure that you must climb, but a flight process that you are part of. You cannot fall out of the universe. Where would you go? You are it. You are the fabric of reality experiencing itself. When you realize this, the need to hold on begins to dissolve. You are like a wave afraid of crashing, forgetting that it is water. A wave cannot it simply becomes the ocean again. However, the struggle is sedative. We are addicted to the drama of the fight. There is a certain grim satisfaction in being the warrior. It leaves a sense of identity. What am the one who carries the burden? What am the one who suffers? To float is to lose this heavy, dramatic identity. It is to become weightless, and to the ego, weightlessness feels like non-existence. The ego wants to be heavy, it wants to matter. It thinks that mattering means having masquerading friction. To float is to become transparent to the flow of life. It is to practice wu-wei effortless action. This does not mean you become inert or passive like a log. A person floating in the ocean still moves, they rise and fall with the swells. They are moved by force greater than themselves. In life, translates to a state of head ego, head responsiveness, but low resistance. You act, but you do not strain. You plan, but you do not worry. You engage, but you do not cling to the result. Consider the metaphor of the tightrope walker. If they tense up, if they try too hard to not fall, they become rigid and lose the balance. They must maintain a dynamic relaxation, a fluid center. They must trust the why in their own body. In our lives, we are walking a why over an abyss of uncertainty. Our anxiety is the tension that makes us wobble. Floating is the realization that there is no abyss, only a safety net that we cannot see because we are too busy looking down into her. The buoyant force of the universe is always present. It is the natural tendency of life to seek equilibrium, healing, and growth. Your body knows how to heal a cut without your instructions. Your psyche knows how to process grief without your micromanagement. But we block this natural buoyancy with our indifference. We pick at the scabs of our mind. We analyze our emotions until they calcify. We try to push the river. The trial you face now is to test the waiter. It is to confront a situation where you would normally spiral and see a delayed flight, a vague text message, a financial uncertainty, and instead of engaging to fight response, you consciously lean back. You choose those or nothing. You choose to watch the anxiety arise, acknowledge it, and then refuse to fool it. This is terrifying because it feels like negligence. The subregal, the internalized voice of society will scold you. How can you just sit there? So something. But you are doing the most powerful thing possible. You are withdrawing your consent from the chaos. You are breaking the feedback loop. As you practice this, you begin to notice something profound. The catastrophe you fear does not happen. Or, if challenges arise, you find that you have more energy to deal with them because you haven't wasted your vitality on imaginary battles. You find that when you stop making waves, the weather clears. You can see the bottom. You gain clarity. Floating reveals that security is not the absence of anger, but the presence of trust. It is the understanding that you are built for this reality. You are not a defect in the system, you are the system. The water is your home. We often think of peace as a destination we must swim to, an island far away in the distance called retirement or success or enlightenment. We think, if we just swim hard enough, would we reach the island of peace and then we can rest. But the mentor reveals the joke: there is no island. The peace in the weather itself. It is available right now, in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of the storm. It is available the moment you stop swimming toward a phantom shore and simply lie back. His shift from becoming to being is the essence of the psychological float. Becoming is the exhausted swimmer. Being is the floater. When you float, you are no longer trying to get somewhere, you are fully here. And paradoxically, the current often takes you exactly where you needed to go, far faster than you could have swum there yourself. But how do we maintain this state when the storm picks up? It is easy to float in a calm pool. It is another thing entirely to float when the waves are crashing over your head. This brings us to the necessity of integration. We must learn not just to float in silence, but to float in chaos. We must learn to carry this wirelessness to the marketplace, to office, and the difficult conversations. We must learn that even in the storm, the deep water below remains still. The buoyancy is not a conditional promise. It doesn't say, "What will support you if you are good," or "What will support you if you are calm." The physics of water are impersonal and absolute. It supports the saint and the sinner equally. It supports the panic thrasher and the relaxed floater equally. The only difference is that the thrasher rejects the support. The universe is holding you right now. The chair you are sitting on, the ground beneath your feet, the atmosphere pressing against your skin, it is all a continuous embrace. You have simply numbed yourself to it by wearing the armor of anxiety. To remove this armor requires a leap of faith. But unlike a leap across a chasm where you might fall, this is a leap into a bend. The only risk is the bruising of your ego, which insists it must be in control. Let it bruise. Let the illusion of the controller die so that the reality of the live experience can be born. We are moving toward a resolution where we no longer view anxiety as a monster, but as a signal. A signal that we have momentarily forgotten that we can float. A signal to exhale, to lean back, and to let the vast, dark, intelligent weather of life carry us home. So, how shall we return to the marketplace, to the noise of the city, and the demands of our daily lives carrying the ascension of weightlessness? We have touched the truth that the waiter supports us, but now we must learn to be amphibians. We must learn to walk on dry land with the flight heart of a swimmer. The liberated state of effortless floating is not a permanent retreat into a cave or a dissolution from reality. It is an active, dynamic engagement with the world, but from a new center of gravity. We called his psychological weightlessness. In the ordinary world, we move through our days carrying the heavy baggage of what if. And I should. We drag the corpse of the past and the heavy phantom of the future behind us. Psychological weightlessness is the practice of dropping these bags every single time we notice we are holding them. It is the realization that you do not need to carry the memory of an argument to solve it. You do not need to carry the fear of a deadline to meet it. You can put the weight down and simply do the work. This brings us to the practical art of the micro-surrender. You do not need to wait for a weekend retreat to practice floating. The opportunity arises 100 times a day. It happens when you are stuck in traffic and feel the heat of irritation rising in your chest. That heat is the fight, the thrashing against the reality that you are stuck. The practice is to notice the contraction, the tightening hands on the steering wheel, the shallow breath, and consciously choose the opposite. You exhale. You lean back in the seat. You acknowledge here what am. This is the current reality. In that moment of acceptance, you stop generating friction. You are no longer fighting the traffic, you are simply in the traffic. The situation has dechanged, but your suffering has evaporated. You have moved from a solid object crashing against the world to a fly presence moving with it. We must also fundamentally change our relationship with our thoughts. In the struggle, we treat thoughts as solid objects, rocks that can hurt us. We dodge them, we fight them, we analyze them. In the state of floating, we see thoughts for what they truly are, bubbles. They rise from the depths, they glitter for a moment on the surface, and they pop. When a dark thought arises, what I'm not good enough, everything is going to fall apart, the floater does not argue with it. You cannot argue with a bubble. You simply watch it. You allow it to float past. You realize that you are not the bubble, you are the water. This shift in identity is the ultimate liberation. If you are the waiter, it's not matter what kind of debris floats by, gold or garbage, praise or insult, the water remains wet, clear, and untouched. This is the essence of true resilience. We used to think resilience was being like an oak tree rigid, toe, unyielding against the wind. But in a hurricane, the oak tree snaps. True resilience is being like a bamboo or the reed. It bends, It yields. It flutters in the wind, offering no resistance, and when the wind passes, it snaps back to center instantly. By floating, by bending, you become unbreakable. As you integrate this, you will notice a strange paradox. By carrying less, you become more effective. This is the secret of Wu Wei, or effortless action. When a musician plays a complex piece, if they try too hard, if they tense up, they stumble. But if they relax and let the music play through them, the performance is flawless. The same applies to your life. When you stop strangling your life with anxiety, your natural intelligence or intuition finally has room to breathe. You make better decisions because you are operating from clarity, not panicked. You navigate the river better not because you are rowing harder, but because you can finally feel the current and use it to your advantage. You return to your life, but you are no longer a victim of it. You walk through the same office doors, sit at the same dinner table, but the internal war has ceased. You have discovered that the storm was largely of your own making, a projection of your own resistance. The ultimate victory of the hero is not that they conquered the world, but they conquered the need to conquer. You have realized that there is nowhere to get to. You are already here. The peace you sought in the future is woven in the very texture of the present moment, accessible the instant you stop fighting. You are a cork in the vast ocean. You can be pushed down by circumstance. You can be tumbled by waves, but the moment the pressure releases, you naturally rise. You do not need to treat to rise. It is your nature. Your nature is buoyancy. Your nature is light. So let the currents come. Let the weather change. You are safe. Not because you are in control, but because you have finally realized that you don't need to be. You are held by something far greater than your small war itself. You are held by life itself. And so we drift. Not aimlessly, but faithfully. Trusting the tide. Trusting the process. Floating in the deep, with knowledge that we are exactly where we are supposed to be. As the screen fades to a slow, rhythmic visual of the tide resting, leaving a smooth, untouched shore, take a breath. Journey from the clenched fist to the open hand is the work of a lifetime, yet it happens in a single instant. Carry this weightlessness with you. The waiter is always there, waiting for you to simply lie back.